My name's Yasha Swisher. I'm a program manager here at NC State, and I'll be talking about our audio sense-making focus area for 2027. The overall challenge that's facing our sponsor in this area is simply the volume of potentially relevant audio data that's available. As we'll see, understanding sound in general, and human speech in particular, is one of the domains where humans are still superior to AI, but a person's time is valuable, especially if that person holds a security clearance and understands multiple languages fluently. Faced with this sort of problem, you might be tempted to offload a bunch of the initial listening task to a machine. You could have a computer perform automated speech recognition on your audio recordings to convert human speech into text, and then, through some combination of further machine processing and human reading, try to quickly identify the most interesting audio cuts for additional review. Well, here's an example of what can happen when you try that. In 1971, President Nixon bugged his own offices, and the evidence on those recordings ultimately led to his impeachment. Here we see a segment of one of the White House tapes after having been run through Whisper Large, which is a pretty decent current speech-to-text model. The omitted text in this transcript is profanity that we've manually redacted. In a moment, we'll hear the actual recording, presented along with a transcript that was created by researchers at the Miller Center at the University of Virginia.
John Mitchell's that way. John, always wrong. Is it technically correct? Do you think the New York Times is worried about all the legal niceties of that are very they got by leaving the press? This is what we've got to get. I want you to shake these French up around here. Now you do it. Shake them up. Get them off their say, no, that isn't what this is talking about. We're up against an enemy, a conspiracy. They're using any means. We are going to use any means. Is that clear? Did they get the Brookings Institute rated last night? No. Get it done. I want it done. I want the Brookings Institute say, clean out. And have it cleaned out in a way that they make somebody else look at.
Here are the full transcripts, with discrepancies between the automated and the human-created transcripts highlighted. Imagine that your job was to look over these transcripts and decide whether any particular audio cut needed further review. There's enough evidence in the automated transcript to suggest that this recording might be interesting, but if it's somewhere in a pile of thousands of other transcripts of similar quality, it's not obvious that this particular one would stand out. In this case, however, President Nixon is directing the White House Special Investigations Unit, later better known as the White House Plumbers, to break in and steal a leaked classified report that he believed, incorrectly as it turned out, was being kept in a safe at the Brookings Institute. There are a lot of challenges in the audio sense-making task. The three I'm highlighting here map directly to those called out in this year's call for white papers. First, the audio data that we're interested in often isn't very clean. The 1971 White House recording is a good example, coming from a hidden microphone some distance from the people being recorded and using nearly 60-year-old technology. Now, you could imagine that a model that was trained specifically on other examples from this one microphone might do a better job, but generating and managing those fine-tuned models at scale is itself going to be a challenge. Another issue is that the people in these recordings are typically speaking a language other than English, and often are using jargon that's not well represented in the training data. In this example, imagine if, instead of the Brookings Institution, a foreign leader were talking about a small NGO in a non-Western country. An analyst who is specialized in that region might immediately recognize the name, but a general-purpose model might not. Now, previous generations of speech-to-text models often had what were effectively dictionary modules, where an end-user analyst could type in the phonetic representation of a name or other such vocabulary, and the model could immediately leverage that to improve later transcriptions. Current models, however, are more commonly trained end-to-end and often don't have any analog to an explicit dictionary. While these current models are often much better performing overall, they're also more challenging for an end user to tune for their specific use case. Finally, we'd be interested in methods of evaluating these models that more directly take into account the tasks that they're being used for. In our example, the ASR transcript rendered Nixon's "shake them up" as "shave them up," which, while clearly wrong and confusing, doesn't really hurt the overall interpretation of the passage that much. On the other hand, "want the Brookings Institute safe cleaned out" was shown as "want the Brookings Institute say cleaned out," which changes something that's clearly criminal into maybe a request for like better housekeeping or something. Measures like word error rate penalize both these mistakes identically, and while word error rate seems clearly correlated with task utility, a better tuned measure might help in better determining in what domains a model would likely perform well enough to be useful. If you have ideas and experience in any of these areas, or in other areas that are clearly related to the overall audio sense-making challenge, we'd love to hear more. Thanks for your time, and we'll be looking forward to hearing from you.